Good day, everyone. My name is Angel May de Monteverde, and I am here to discuss what I have learned in a child and adolescent learning principles in the weeks 13 to 15. So, in Unit 5, it is all about the development of the learners at various stage, and in week 13, our topic is about socio-emotional development of infants and toddlers. So, it is said the importance of the first 3 years in human development is also called as the formative years, whereas the parents and caregivers have a significant role in the development of the child. So, the important people in young children's lives helps lay the foundation for a range of social emotional skills such as self regulation, empathy, turn taking and sharing, positive relationships with adults and peers, and socio emotional milestones. Keep in mind that individual differences exist when it comes to the precise age at which infants and toddlers meet these milestones. So, milestones are not checklists with which to judge children's development. Rather, they provide a guide for when to expect certain skills or behaviors to emerge in young children so you are prepared to meet their changing needs. Think of milestones as guidelines to help you understand and identify typical patterns of growth and development in infants and toddlers. You can continue to use these milestones to help meet the needs of the young children in your care. Although the skills highlighted in the chart develop in a predictable sequence over the first 3 years of life, each infant and toddler is unique. Your goal is to help all infants and toddlers in your family child care setting grow and learn to their potential. So these are the social emotional developmental milestones. So in 2 months, they calm easily, smiles at others, reacts positively when spoken to, appears to recognize and react to bottle or breast. In 4 months, smiles to get someone's attention, moves or makes sounds to get a reaction, giggles but not yet a full laugh, plays with their own hands and fingers, smiles or cows at self in a mirror. 6 months, recognizes family's voices and faces, laughs, interested in self in the mirror, plays with own feet and tries to get a toy if it is out of reach. So these are the social emotional developmental milestones in 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, 18, 24, 30, and 36 months. So it is helpful to remember that expectations about social emotional milestones are driven by cultural values and preferences. Adults share their cultural values and beliefs with children through daily interactions. Ideas, beliefs, and expectations about child development are just some of the ways cultures are unique. Becoming aware of and respecting these differences can help you better understand families' experiences that help shape the infants and toddlers in your care. So now let us move on to week 14. Our topic is about preschoolers' physical development. So the preschooler years is commonly known as the years before formal schooling begins. It roughly covers 3 to 5 years of age. Although it is known as the years before formal school, it is by no way less important than the grade school years. The preschoolers years is very important as it lays foundation to later development. At this stage, preschoolers achieve many development milestones. So as such, pre-service teachers who might be interested to teach and care for preschoolers need to be knowledgeable about them, to be truly an intentional and effective teacher. So these are some of the big ideas about the physical development of preschoolers. So firstly, there are significant changes in physical growth of preschoolers. The preschoolers can express themselves artistically at a very important for the preschoolers. So another is preschooler physical development is marked by the acquisition of gross and fine motor skills. Another, proper nutrition and the right amount of sleep are very important for the preschoolers. Caregivers and teachers can do a lot in maximizing the growth and development of preschoolers, and preschoolers with special needs and inclusive classrooms can thrive well with the appropriate adaptations made in classrooms, like materials and activities. So the significant changes in physical development. Physical growth increases in the preschool years. Although it is much slower in pace than infancy and toddlerhood, at around 3 years of age, preschoolers move slender appearance of a child. The trunk, arms, and legs becomes larger. When we talk about gross and fine motor development, gross motor development refers to the acquiring skills that involve the large muscles. So, on the other hand, locomotor skills are those that involve going from one place to another, while non-locomotor rather are the ones or those that are stays in place or the child stays in place, like bending, stretching, turning, and swaying. So manipulative skills are those that involve projecting and receiving objects like throwing, striking, bouncing, catching, and dribbling. And a fine motor development refers to acquiring the ability to use the smaller muscles in the arm, hands, and fingers purposely. So another development, preschoolers' artistic development. At the heart of the preschool years, their interest to draw and make other forms of artistic expressions. This form of fine motor activity is relevant to preschoolers. Victor Lowenfeld studied this and came up with the stages of drawing in early childhood. So first, stage 1 is the scribbling stage. So this stage begins with large zigzag lines which later become circular markings. So in stage 2, the pre-schematic stage, or they may already include early representations like they also become very significant when we discuss about cognitive development. At these points, adults may be able to recognize the drawings several times. So in stage 3, which is the schematic stage, it is more elaborate scenes. Children usually draw from experience and exposure. So that is the stage 3. So moving on, what preschoolers can do when we talk about physical skills. Of course, in the gross motor, 36 to 48 months, they can hop 1 to 3 steps on preferred foot, skips, jumps and turns, stands and turns. In fine motor skills, they consistently turns pages of a picture storybook 1 page at a time, looking at pictures with interest, purposely copies diagonal lines, bisect across, copies a square, copies a triangle, and cuts with scissors following a line. And 49 to 60 months, they can now copy simple pattern, draw a human figure, draw a house, colors with strokes, staying within lines. So moving on, when we talk about personal care and hygiene or their self-help skills, in 36 to 48 months, they can now pour from pitcher without spillage, feed self using spoon without spillage, dresses without assistance except for buttons and tying laces, put on socks independently. In 49 to 60 months, feed self using fingers without spillage, prepares own food, dresses without assistance, wipes, cleans himself or herself after a bowel movement, brushes teeth, washes and dries face independently, and takes a bath independently without having to be told. So that ends the week 14. Now moving on to week 15, our topic is about the cognitive development of the preschoolers. So brain connections in the preschool years. Because of fascinating developments in neuroscience, brain development of young children has been a great interest to the field of early childhood. Brain research findings points us to more effective ways to care for and teach preschoolers. From science lessons you had in high school or even in elementary, you will remember that our brain is composed of numerous cells called neurons that connect to each other to function. So cell connection are what we call synapses, sometimes also referred to as synapses connections. So language development. Young children's understanding sometimes gets ahead of their speech. As children go through early childhood, their grasp of rules of language increases, like morphology, semantics, and pragmatics. So symbolic thinking involves language, literacy, and dramatic play. Children rapidly conclude that sounds link together to make words, and words represent ideas, people, and things. Throughout the preschool years, children language development becomes increasingly complex in the four main areas: the phonology, or the speech sounds; semantics, which is the word meaning; syntax, the sentence construction; and pragmatics, which is the conversation or social uses of language. So, as they advance in age and as they continuously interact with people, preschool children expand rapidly in their vocabulary through fast mapping, a process by which children absorb the meaning of a new word after hearing it once or twice in conversation. Preschool children combine syllables into words and words into sentences in an increasingly sophisticated manner. So, language and social interaction. Vygotsky believed that young children use language both to communicate socially and to plan, guide, and monitor their behavior in a self-regulatory fashion called inner speech or private speech. For, for Piaget, speech is egocentric and immature, but for Vygotsky, it is an important tool of thought during early childhood. Full cognitive development requires social interaction and language. Children must use language to communicate with others before they can focus on their own thoughts. This implies the importance of interaction of preschoolers with caregivers for language development. Vygotsky introduced the term zone of proximal development or ZPD to refer to tasks too difficult for a children to master alone but can be mastered with the guidance and assistance of adults or more skilled children. So, information processing theory or attention and memory. So, the information processing model is another way of examining and understanding how children develop cognitively. This model conceptualizes children's mental process through the metaphor of a computer processing, encoding, storing, and decoding data. The preschooler's attention span lasts longer than that of toddlers. The child's ability to pay attention change significantly during the preschool years. But one deficit in attention during preschool years is that attention is focused only on aspects that stand out at the expense of those that are relevant to solving a problem or to performing well on a task. Preschool children recognizes previously encountered information, recall old information, and reconstruct it and represent. So, the young children's theory of mind. Theory of mind refers to individual thoughts about how mental process work. By the age of 2 or 3, children become aware that the mind exists. They refer to need, emotions, and mental states. When a preschool child says, "I forgot my doll, I want ice cream," this implies that he or she is aware that a mind exists. Cognitive terms such as know, remember, and think usually appear after perceptual and emotional terms but are used by age of 3. So these are the receptive language or the development in receptive language. And standard 1, the child is able to understand both verbal and nonverbal forms of communication. In standard 1.1, the child is able to match identical objects, colors, shapes, and symbols. This is under the pre-reading and pre-math or the matching. Okay, so another is in terms of copying letters and numbers. The child here is able to recite the alphabet and numbers in sequence. So, in cognitive development or the attention and activity level in standard 1, the child is able to sustain attention and modulate his activity at age expected level. So, these are as follows. Talking about the high order mental abilities or the concept formation, the child now develops basic concepts pertaining to object, constancy, space, time, quantity, duration, and etc. and uses this as the basis for understanding how materials are categorized in his or her environment. So in high-ordered mental abilities or the cause and effect relationships, the child now is able to understand the cause and effect relationship. Talking about memory or the episodic memory, the child is able to recall people has met, events, and places he has been to. In terms of memory for concept-based knowledge or semantic memory, the child is able to store verbal information in short and long-term memory. So in terms of high-order mental abilities or the logical reasoning, the child now is able to follow the logic of events, or for example, the reasons why this happened, and draw accurate conclusion by evaluating the facts presented to him. These are the months where this standard exists or happens. 37 to 48 months or 45 years old, 49 to 60 months or 45 years old. Okay, so that ends my oral report. I hope you have learned something. Thank you for listening, and God bless us all.